Hey guys, today we're diving headfirst into the ultimate beginner's guide to Make.com, the automation platform that's about to save you tons of time and seriously change the way that you work. Imagine being able to kick back while the repetitive stuff like emailing, data entry, notifications all handle itself. Sound like magic? It kind of is. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to make it work for you. We're going step by step, breaking down everything you need to do to get started, so you can start seeing those results today. And hey, stick with me till the end, because I've got a surprise gift waiting just for you. I'll be dropping little clues throughout the video, so keep an eye out. You won't want to miss this. First of all, thanks for coming back, and a big welcome to all the new subscribers joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jake Dawson, and I'm here to bring you the latest in AI sales automation and workflow hacks in a way that's easy to understand and apply. And as always, remember that everything we cover here is to help you succeed. These are not just theories, but actionable strategies that you can use right now. Now, if you're new here or looking for more ways to level up, don't forget to check out the school community we have linked below. Inside, you'll find exclusive Make.com templates, including the one that we're using today, that you can import directly and start using immediately. We've built a whole space for learners and doers just like you, where you can ask questions, get direct help, and connect with like-minded folks ready to take action. And of course, you can always subscribe and hit that bell button to get notified of our bi-weekly videos, live sessions, and more. All right, let's jump in. So, what is Make.com and why should you care? Imagine having a personal assistant who never sleeps, doesn't ask for a salary, and handles all those tedious tasks that eat up your day. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, that's pretty much what Make.com does. Think of it as the glue that holds all of your favorite apps together, making them work in harmony without you having to lift a finger. It helps automate repetitive tasks, allowing you to focus on more important aspects of your business, like actually running it, or maybe finally taking that coffee break you keep postponing. Now, let's explore what Make.com can really do. It can link tens of thousands of apps, enabling you to create custom automations known as scenarios. Don't worry, we're not talking about a sci-fi movie plot here. Scenarios are workflows that automate sequences of actions across different apps. It's like setting up a chain reaction where one action triggers another and so on. For example, you can set it up so that when you receive an email with an attachment, it automatically saves the file to your Google Drive, and it sends a notification to your Slack channel, all without you doing a thing. Pretty cool, huh? But wait, there's more. Let's talk about how you can identify automation opportunities in your business. First, list all those repetitive tasks that consume your time, like data entry, lead tracking, sending notifications, or even just moving information from one place to another. Now ask yourself, could these tasks be automated to improve efficiency and reduce errors? Spoiler alert, the answer is usually yes. By automating these tasks, not only do you save time, but you also minimize the risk of human error. Plus, you get to look like a tech wizard to your colleagues, and who doesn't want that? So you're probably thinking, Jake, this sounds awesome, but how do I get started? I'm glad you asked. First, you'll want to prepare to use Make.com. Ensure you have accounts set up for the apps that you plan to integrate. This could be Google Sheets, Slack, your CRM system, or any other apps you use regularly. Gather any necessary login credentials or API keys required for app integrations. Wait, what's an API? And what's an app integration? Great question. An API, or Application Programming Interface, is like a bridge that allows two applications to talk to each other. Think of it as a waiter taking your order in a restaurant. The waiter, aka API, communicates your order from you to the kitchen, the app, and brings back your food, the data. App integrations are when you connect different apps together using these APIs, allowing them to share information and work together seamlessly. So by using Make.com, you're essentially building bridges between your apps so that they can all chat and work together without having to play messenger. Think of API keys as VIP passes into a club. They let you into the exclusive areas where the real action happens. All right, let's get our hands dirty. Let's say you're getting tons of customer inquiries via email and you want to log them into a Google Sheet for tracking. Manually copying and pasting each one is about as fun as watching paint dry. With Make.com, you can set up a scenario where every time you receive an email, it automatically extracts the relevant info and adds it to your Google Sheet. Boom, instant time saver. Or maybe you want to get a Slack notification every time someone fills out a form on your website. Instead of constantly checking your email like an anxious teenager waiting for a text, Make.com can ping you on Slack the moment that form is submitted. The possibilities are endless, and the best part is you don't need to be a coding genius to make it happen. Now let's talk about setting up Make.com. First, head over to Make.com and create an account. It's straightforward and best of all, free to get started. Once you're in, you'll see a dashboard that might look a bit overwhelming at first, kind of like a cockpit of an airplane, but don't worry. You won't need a pilot's license to navigate this. Start by clicking on Create a New Scenario. Then choose the app that kicks off your workflow, like Google Forms, and add all the other apps you want to connect. You're basically setting up a chain reaction of tasks, and Make.com is the conductor, making sure it all happens in sync. Now, let's talk triggers. With Make.com, you can set your workflows to start when something specific happens, like a new email or form submission. Or you can schedule it to run at set times. Imagine automatically a daily report that hits your inbox at 8 a.m. every morning while you're still sipping your first cup of coffee. Once you've got that set, we're going to add actions, like updating a Google Sheet, pinging a Slack channel, or whatever you want to happen next. All you have to do is drag and drop each app into the workflow like puzzle pieces, and they'll start talking to each other. Now, if you're thinking, but what if I don't want this to run every time? No worries. Make.com has got you covered. You can set specific triggers or even schedule workflows. Say you want a report to land in your inbox every morning at 8 a.m. No problem. You just tell Make.com to fire up that report on a schedule, and boom, you've got your data on time every time without lifting a finger. Now let's talk about app integrations. It connects with all your favorite apps, Google Sheets, Slack, CRMs, you name it. Inside your scenario, just click the little plus sign and add another app. Search for the one you need and follow a quick setup to connect your account. It's like inviting each app to a big productivity party. They're all working together in sync. You want to get your team in on the action? You can invite them to Make.com and assign roles. So maybe one person just views the workflows, another manages them, and another can edit. This way, everyone can pitch in without accidentally, breaking things. Just go to the Teams section, add their emails, and set their permissions. Teamwork and automation makes the dream work, right? Let's look at a few real-life examples of how you could use this setup. Imagine you're in sales. A lead fills out a form on your website, and Make.com automatically adds their info to your CRM, assigns them to a sales rep, and logs it all in Google Sheets for easy tracking. That's lead management on autopilot. Or let's say you're in marketing. You can schedule social media posts to go live at different times across platforms like Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and then pull in campaign data into a dashboard to track it all in one place. It's basically your new marketing assistant. Or how about customer support? You could set up a workflow so that when a customer fills out a form or sends an email, it creates a ticket in your system, sends an automatic acknowledgement email, and pings the support team. It's like customer support, but with a memory and no coffee breaks. Now, why should you care about this? Because it saves you time, reduces errors, and lets you focus on things that actually matter. Let's face it, data entry, notifications, and updates aren't exactly where you want to be spending your day. By setting up workflows in Make.com, you can skip all the manual stuff, reduce the risk of human error, and keep things accurate. Just make sure to test your scenarios first to iron out any kinks, and then you're good to go. And hey, as your business grows, Make.com can grow with you. If your workflows are starting to get more complex or you need to handle more data, it's built to scale. Just keep things modular, meaning set up each little part of the workflow separately, so that if you need to adjust anything, it's easy to swap components in and out. All right, let's talk about pricing for Make.com. Because before we dive into setting up your automation empire, we need to know what it's going to cost, right? So first up is the free plan. So what's in the freebie zone? You get 1,000 operations per month. Now, operations is just a fancy way of saying each individual action or step Make.com performs. Think of it like your automation budget. The plan is perfect for those who are just starting and want to dip their toes in without spending a dime. At this level, you can create some simple workflows, things like basic data transfer or automatic email notifications. If you're looking to handle the little tasks, test things out, or you're just one person needing a bit of automation magic, this free plan is your friend. Now, if you're ready to get a bit more serious, we've got the core plan at $9 a month. This one gives you 10,000 operations, which is a big jump from the free plan, and lets you start building some heavier workflows. Here, you can set up more complex automations that involve multiple steps, like a sequence of actions that checks for specific conditions before moving forward. For small teams or a solo entrepreneur looking to save some serious time, the core plan offers a ton of value. It's like going from a basic coffee maker to a full-blown espresso machine. Next is the Pro plan at $29 a month. Now we're talking 40,000 operations, and this is where the Pro and Pro plan really starts to show. It's designed for growing businesses that are starting to rely on automation for customer support, sales, or keeping workflows running smoothly day in and day out. You also get priority support here, so if something goes sideways, you've got a fast track to help. This plan is a big step up for companies that want to run automations at a higher volume, need faster processing, and want that extra peace of mind. And finally, there's the Enterprise plan. This one's custom priced and designed for businesses that need serious automation power. Think unlimited operations, high volume tasks, and dedicated support. It's perfect for large teams with complex workflows who want it all seamlessly integrated. So why go for the paid plan? Bottom line is that you get more productivity, more flexibility, and way more time back in your day. All right, now that you've got the lay of the land on Make.com, let's get into the fun part, actually setting things up. To make the most of Make.com, you've got to know your way around the main tabs. Each section has its own purpose, kind of like different rooms in a house where each one serves a different need. So go grab a virtual map and let's take the tour. First stop, the Scenarios tab. This is your main automation dashboard, your mission control. Every single automation you set up lives here. Think of it as your automation portfolio. From here, you can create new scenarios, edit or troubleshoot existing ones, and even run tests to see if they're working smoothly. Want to organize these by project? Use labels or filters to keep things tidy. Trust me, once you have a bunch of scenarios going, a little organization goes a long way. Next up is Connections. This is the hub for all the apps you want to connect with Make.com, like Google Sheets, Gmail, or Slack. You'll need to create a connection for each app you're using, which is a fancy way of saying, let Make.com access your apps so it can work its magic. Think of it like giving your automation a key to each app's front door. You can also test these connections here to make sure everything's talking to each other before you set up a scenario. Now, let's talk about webhooks. A webhook is like a little spy that waits for something specific to happen outside Make.com. So if you want real-time updates or data to flow in the second it's available, webhooks are the way to go. For example, if you're collecting customer info from a form on your website, you could set up a webhook that triggers an automation as soon as they hit submit. Pretty cool, right? Onwards to templates. If you're thinking, can I just have a done for me setup? You're in luck. Make.com has a library of templates that cover all kinds of popular use cases, like automating email marketing or streamlining social media posts. Just pick a template that matches what you need, install it, and adjust it as needed. It's like picking up a pre-built IKEA cabinet, but without the missing screws. Templates save you a ton of time, and you can customize them as much as you want. Last stop, data stores. These are the little databases within Make.com, where you can store and reuse info across different workflows. Say you want to keep track of customer preferences or inventory lists and pull from them whenever you run an automation. This is where you'd set that up. Instead of adding the same data over and over, you store it here once and can use it anytime you need in different scenarios. It's like keeping your favorite recipes in one place so you don't have to rewrite them. All right, now that we've got the lay of the land, we're ready to dive into building our first scenario together. Let's put all this knowledge to work. So we've already talked about how to create scenarios, but now let's zoom in onto the canvas. Once you hit that Create a New Scenario button, you'll land on the canvas. Think of this as your digital workspace. It's an open stage where all the automation magic happens. Here, you'll drag, drop, and connect all the pieces or modules that make up your automation. The canvas is super visual, so you can literally see each step of your workflow laid out in front of you. You can zoom in, zoom out, rearrange modules, and build out your scenario step by step, like setting up a set of building blocks. So get comfortable here, because this is where you'll design all your workflows, bringing each piece of your automation puzzle together. Ready to start building? Let's start setting it up. To keep things organized, give your scenario a name that tells you exactly what it does. Click on the name at the top and set a custom name, something like Customer Welcome Emails or Weekly Report Generator. Trust me, once you have a few automation runnings, you'll thank yourself for this little bit of organization. Now, let's talk about how to run this automation. If you're just testing things out, you can keep it on manual mode and trigger it whenever you want. But if you want it to run like clockwork, say every morning at 9 a.m., go ahead and set it to a schedule. You've got options like every 15 minutes, hourly, daily, or whatever custom timing works for you. So if you want those automations to kick in every Monday morning, you've got it covered. All right, with all that set up, let's add our first module, the building blocks of every scenario. Modules are the steps that either kickstart your automation or perform specific actions, like sending an email. Let's go with an example everyone can relate to. You want a Google Sheet to trigger an email every time a new row is added. First, click that big plus sign icon to add your first module. In the search bar, type Google Sheets and select it. For the trigger, we'll go with Watch Rows. What this does is keep an eye on your Google Sheet for any new rows that get added. Once it spots one, it kicks off the whole automation. You'll need to authorize your Google account if you haven't done it already, and then select the specific Google Sheet you want to use. Under Limit, set it to 1, which tells Make.com to only grab one row at a time. Now hit Run Once to make sure it's capturing data correctly. You should see the row from your sheet appear, ready for action. With our trigger set, it's time to add the action. Click the plus icon again, and this time search for Gmail or just email. We're setting up a simple welcome email, so go ahead and choose Send an Email. In the recipient field, link it to the email address that Google Sheets just pulled in for you. Add a subject line, something like, Welcome to the team, or Thanks for signing up. Then in the body, write a message that feels personal. You can even pull in the user's name and other details from the Google Sheet, so each email feels like it's tailor-made for them. All right, now let's connect your Google account to Make.com. Google added a few extra security steps recently, so it's not as simple as clicking a button. But don't worry, I'll walk you through this setup. Just follow along and you'll be set up in no time. First, we're going to hop over to the Google Cloud Console. Head to console.cloud.google.com. Log in with the Google account you want to connect and look for the option to either select an existing project or create a new one. If you're setting this up for the first time, hit Create Project. Give it a name that makes sense, like Make.com Gmail integration, and then click Create Now. We need to enable the Gmail API so Make.com can access your Gmail. On the left sidebar, find APIs and Services and go to the dashboard. Click on Enable APIs and Services. Then search for Gmail API. When it pops up, select it and click Enable. This setup basically tells Google, yes, I want this project to work with my Gmail account, so Make.com can automate sending, reading, or managing emails. Next, we go to set up the OAuth consent screen. This is like the permission slip that lets Make.com access your Gmail security. In the sidebar, click on OAuth consent screen. Choose External for the user type, then click Create. Here, fill in the details. For the app name, you could use something straightforward like Make.com Gmail integration. Use your Google email for the support email. Set the authorized domain to Make.com, and enter your own email as the developer contact. Then it's time to add API scopes, which are like permission levels for your Gmail. Click on Add Scope and search for Gmail API. You'll see options like mail.google.com and gmail.readonly. Select the ones you need. Gmail.compose is a must if you want Make.com to send emails on your behalf. After choosing the scopes, hit Save and Continue. Almost there. Scroll down to Test Users and add your own Gmail address. Click Save and Continue, and you're good to go on the consent setup. Now it's time for the main event, creating OAuth credentials. Go to Credentials in the sidebar, then click Create Credentials. OAuth Client ID. Set the application type to Web Application. Give it a name like Make.com OAuth Client. And for the authorization redirect, URIs, paste this link. Then hit Create. Google will give you a client ID and client secret. Make sure to save these in a secure spot as they're the keys to connecting your Gmail. Back in Make.com, open up a new scenario. Click on the big plus sign, search for Gmail, and choose Add Module. In the connection setup, name it something simple like My Gmail Connection. Then paste in that client ID and client secret from Google Cloud and hit Continue. Google will prompt you to confirm permissions, so just follow these steps, click Allow, and boom, you're officially connected. And that's it. Now Make.com can access your Gmail, which means we're ready to start setting up automations using your inbox. Nice work. All right, let's take this automation up a notch by adding a Slack notification. This is where things really get cool because now we're creating a full circle system that not only gathers info, but also alerts your team the second something new comes in. Imagine getting a ping in Slack every time a new lead is added or when someone fills out a form. It's like having your very own automation assistant keeping everyone in the loop. Here's how to set it up. First, click that plus icon again. On the canvas there, add a new module. Type Slack in the search bar and select it. We're going with the Send a Message action, which will send a message to your chosen Slack channel whenever this automation kicks off. Now, we'll need to connect Slack to Make.com. Click Add to set up the connection, log into Slack, and authorize Make.com to send messages on your behalf. It'll ask for some permissions, but don't worry, it's just making sure it can access your workspace. Once you're connected, let's get to the fun part, crafting your message. In the message field, you can pull in details from Google Sheets or Gmail, like the person's name, email, budget, or anything else relevant. You can even add a little custom message like, "Hey team, new lead alert, check it out." This keeps things friendly, but gets the job done. Next, choose which Slack channel you want this notification to go to. Click Select from List and pick the right channel, whether it's public or private. Once that's done, click OK to save everything. To make sure it's all set up right, hit Run once and check Slack to see if your notification pops up in the selected channel with all the details. If it does, congrats, you've just automated your first multi-app notification. Now, why are we going through all this effort to link these apps? Because connecting your tools in Make.com is like giving your team a superpower. Instead of manually checking Google Sheets, Slack, and Gmail a dozen times a day, everything is now centralized, running automatically, and hitting your Slack in real time. Plus, with notifications happening instantly, your team can respond quicker than ever, so no more missed leads or slow follow-ups. This setup allows Make.com to do the heavy lifting, leaving you and your team free to focus on the big stuff. All right, let's take a look at another tool in Make.com that's called Filters. Think of filters as little traffic controllers in your automation. They decide whether the data should keep going or stop right there. They're perfect for refining your workflow so that only relevant actions get through. For example, if you're tracking leads, you can set a filter to notify the team only when a lead is new or when they have a specific budget. This way, your automation stays lean and efficient, focusing only on what matters. So, what's a filter exactly? In Make.com, a filter is a condition that tells the automation when it's okay to proceed. Need an example? Imagine you only want to trigger an email if a lead has a budget over $10,000. A filter can make that happen. Let's set one up. Click on the Google Sheets module, and inside the panel, you'll see a filter section. This is where the filtering happens. Let's say we only want the scenario to continue if the status column in Google Sheets reads new. Set that as your condition, and now only fresh leads will make it through. This way, your team is only notified about new data, and they won't get hit with notifications for old entries, keeping everything nice and focused. Now, what if we want to get even more specific and control the flow between modules? Easy, just add a filter between them. For example, if we're only interested in high-budget leads, we can add a filter between Google Sheets and Gmail, so only those with a budget over $10,000 get an email. Just click on the arrow between the two modules, select Set up a filter, and set the condition to budget, the text operator to greater than, and the text to 10,000. Now, Make.com will automatically filter out any entries below that threshold, keeping your email communications focused on high-priority leads. By using filters like these, you're streamlining your automation and avoiding unnecessary emails, notifications, and other actions. It's like giving your workflow a set of rules so that it only does exactly what you want, when you want it. No extra noise, no wasted resources. This keeps things efficient and makes sure that your team only gets notified about the data that really matters. Next up, testing. This is where you hit Run Once, which does exactly what it sounds like. It runs your scenario one time using real data. When you click Run Once, Make.com will go through your workflow step by step, pulling in live data from Google Sheets, Gmail, and Slack. This lets you check everything is working correctly and if your filters or notifications are doing what they're supposed to. If the test goes well, awesome, you're ready to go live. If something doesn't look right, now's the time to tweak things. By the end of these steps, you've tested your workflow and set it to run on a schedule that fits your needs. You're now all set up to automate like a pro without worrying about constantly checking up on things. All right, now let's dive into responses, one of the coolest parts of Make.com, because responses are like the feedback loop that tells you exactly what's happening at each step of your workflow. These responses let you verify that everything is working just as it should be and use the data dynamically in the next steps. So, what exactly is a response? Think of it as the output a module generates once it's done its thing. Let's say your Google Sheets module just pulled in a new row. It'll show you the values from each cell in that row. You'll see responses like name, email, and status, and all ready to be used by the next modules. This real-time data is like the fuel that makes your workflow smart and responsive. By checking the status response from Google Sheets, you can ensure that only entries marked as new trigger that email. And here's a little pro tip. As your workflows get more complex, rename your modules. Right-click on a module, hit Rename, and give it a clear label like New Lead in Google Sheets or Notify Team in Slack. This helps you keep track of what each module is doing and ensures you're using the correct data without second guessing. Now, let's talk about actually using these responses in your workflow. You can access each module's responses in the mapping options of the next module. Think of mapping as the process of connecting the dots between different parts of your automation. When one module, like Google Sheets, pulls in information, mapping lets you take that information and use it in the next step. It's kind of like filling in the blanks. So data flows from one module to the next without you needing to retype or copy anything manually. For example, let's say you want to send a welcome email with the person's first name in it. Mapping allows you to take the first name from your Google Sheets module and place it right into the email's greeting. So instead of saying, hello there, the email says, hello, first name, automatically. This makes each message feel personal. Want that name to show up in a Slack notification too? No problem. Mapping lets you pull it in again. So the Slack message might say, new lead alert, first name, just signed up. It's like magically copying and pasting things to keep your data connected and customized for each new entry. Once you set up your mapping, it's time to test. Hit the Run Once button to make sure all the data flows correctly through each step. This quick test will help you spot any missing info or issues before you fully activate the automation. And hey, here's a little reward for sticking around. Remember I mentioned a surprise? All the templates, steps, and settings we've covered are available for free download in the description below. So you can grab those and start setting up your automation right away without worrying about taking notes. Now let's talk about one of the coolest features in Make.com, routing. Think of routing as the choose your own adventure of automations. With routing, you're setting up different paths for your data to follow based on specific conditions. So each piece of data gets the right treatment. So why use routing? It's perfect for those times when you have different types of data that need unique actions. Maybe you're managing new and returning users. With routing, you can handle both within the same workflow without duplicating or overcomplicating things. For example, if a new user signs up, you might want to send a welcome email. But if it's a returning user, maybe a quick Slack notification to your team is all that's needed. Here's how to set it up. First, add a router to your scenario. Click the plus icon between modules and select Router. This router becomes your control center, creating branches or routes for your data. Next, define the conditions for each route. So, if we're going with our new versus returning user example, set up route A to check if the user status is new and route B for returning. This way, you're only triggering the right actions for each user type. Now that you have your routes, map out what each one will do. For route A, the new user, you might add a Gmail module to send a welcome email and personalize it with details like their name and any other info you've pulled in. For route B, returning users, add a Slack module instead. This route can notify your team, letting them know that a previous user has come back, which might mean they're interested in something more. Routing is all about flexibility and efficiency. It keeps everything streamlined when making sure each bit of our data gets handled exactly the way that it should. Now let's dive into functions in Make.com. Functions are like little tools that let you mold and shape your data so that it's exactly how you need it, right when you need it. Whether you're cleaning up text, crunching numbers, or handling dates, functions help make your automation smarter and more flexible. A quick disclaimer, functions are a bit more technical, but here's the thing. If you structure your automation well, you won't need to use them as often. They're like the extra tools that are there when you need them and add a little finesse. Let's start with general functions, like if statements. They're perfect for setting up either or situations. Picture it like this. If a lead's budget is over $1,000, they get marked as qualified. If it's under that, they go off to a different path. Super handy for automating decisions. Then we have math functions. Say you're doing some basic math, like adding or multiplying numbers. If you're handling budgets, quotas, or any kind of number crunching, math functions let you automate those calculations without pulling out an actual calculator. Now, onto text functions. Ever needed to merge two names into one field or pull out just the email domain, like the @gmail.com part? Text functions like concatenate and mid are perfect for that. It's like giving your data a quick tidy up before sending it off to its next destination. Date and time functions are lifesavers for anything time sensitive. Want to set follow-up reminders? Just use functions like add days to add a specific number of days to the current date. Boom, automatic reminders. Or use format date to adjust dates to match specific formats or regions so they look just right in your reports. For list-based data, array functions come in handy. Imagine you have a list of services a customer selected, and you need to check if premium support is one of them. The contains function does just that, helping you ensure the workflow only moves forward if certain types of items are on the list. Finally, let's talk about lookup and conditional functions like switch. This one's like giving your automation a roadmap. Depending on what it finds, like if a customer's country is USA or Canada, it'll follow different paths based on what you set up. Perfect for managing complex workflows with multiple options. In real-life terms, functions are like setting up a custom checklist for every step in your automation. From qualifying leads to cleaning data for reporting, functions ensure each piece of data is exactly how you want it. And hey, If you've been sticking around for all these tips, remember to grab all the free templates in the description below so you can start using these functions right away. Next up in Make.com, let's dive into parsing, a true lifesaver when you're dealing with messy data or extracting bits and pieces from HTML. Think of the text parser as your automation's cleanup crew, ready to dive into chunks of text or HTML and pull out only the parts that you actually need. Say you've got some HTML data, maybe from a web page or a form, and you just want the text without all the clutter. The text parser has you covered with options to strip out content, isolate specific elements, or even match patterns to find exactly what you're looking for. First up, you've got the option to pull content from HTML tables. This is perfect if there's data sitting in rows and columns within the HTML. You can grab the entire structure and parse it into something you can work with, like an array. Think of it as turning a messy web table into a tidy list of rows and columns. Then there's the specific option to pull specific elements out of HTML. For instance, if all you need are images from a web page, the text parser can go in, grab those images, and leave everything else behind. It's like telling it, just get the images, thanks. Want to simplify things even more? Use the HTML to text function. This one's straightforward. It takes all that HTML and converts it into plain text. All those tags and formatting getting stripped out, leaving you with just the readable content. Perfect for when you just want the words without the web code fuss. If you're dealing with text patterns, the text parser has a few more tricks. The match elements option lets you search for certain patterns in a string, maybe a specific word or recurring format you're trying to spot. And if you need something even more precise, you've got match pattern, which uses regular expressions to help you find exact matches. It's for those cases when you need to get very specific about what to find in a chunk of text. Also, there's a replace function. This one is your find and replace tool in the text parser. You can set it to search for a specific value or pattern in your string and swap it out with something else. Great for cleaning up unwanted text, correcting mistakes, or even reformatting. Using text parsing often comes with understanding and writing regex. If you're wondering what regex is, it's basically like a treasure map for text. It helps you spot, pull, and even rearrange specific pieces of text based on patterns you define. Need to grab just the email addresses from a huge pile of text? Want to spot every phone number in a document? That's where regex steps in. So why use regex? It's insanely flexible. Instead of manually searching through endless lines of text, you create a pattern and regex finds every match for you in no time. This is super handy in Make.com, especially when your workflows are sifting through tons of data, like emails, phone numbers, URLs, or any structured information. Regex ensures that your automation grabs only what you need, ignoring the rest. Let's walk through a quick setup where regex is used to extract email addresses from incoming texts, like a customer message, and then logs it to Google Sheets. Here's the breakdown. First, set up the trigger. In Make.com, create a new scenario and select the trigger based on your source, like Google Forms, Typeform, or Gmail if you're pulling data from emails. Next, add a text parsing module to sift through the text. Connect this to your trigger and select the text field you want to parse, such as the email body or the form response. Now it's time to bring in the regex magic. In the text parser, look for the regex option, type in the pattern for an email address, and test it out. Most parsers let you do a quick preview, so you can check if it's correctly picking out the email address from the text. This is like running a mini test to make sure you're getting exactly what you need. Once the email address is isolated, add a Google Sheets module to store it. Set it to add a row and map the extracted email to a specific column in your sheet, like contact email. You could even add more columns for date or message content if you want to keep a detailed record. Finally, give the whole thing a test run. Hit run once to make sure the emails land in your sheet just like you planned. Check your Google Sheet to confirm it's all in place, and once you're good to go, turn on the scenario for some real-time action. Picture this. Every time a customer submits a form or sends a message, Make.com now automatically pulls their email address and logs it neatly into Google Sheets. No more hunting through messages manually. Regex helps you create a smart, hands-off system that keeps your data organized and ready for follow-up. And here's the best part. Once you set up these automation basics, your workflow can do more than just keep things tidy. Imagine layering in tools that don't just log and organize, but actually understand your data. This is where AI modules take things to a whole new level, helping you go from simply tracking information to intelligently analyzing and responding to it. All right, now we're stepping into the world of AI modules in Make.com, and this is where the real magic kicks in. Think of these AI tools like OpenAI, Anthropic, Grok, and Perplexity as your personal assistants ready to take on the heavy lifting. Whether you need to summarize reviews, create responses, or organize data into neat categories, these modules are like adding a brain to your automations, making everything way smarter. So, why would you want AI in your automations? Imagine sending perfectly personalized emails based on each customer's data, pulling valuable insights straight from feedback automatically, or even whipping up blog post ideas without lifting a finger. AI does the brain work, you set the strategy, and Make.com handles the flow. Here's how to dive in. For OpenAI, go to their API key page. Log in or sign up if you haven't already. Click on Create New Secret Key and copy that key. This key is basically your VIP pass to connect OpenAI features with Make.com. For Anthropic, head over to their API access page. You'll find it in the account settings, but the link might vary based on your account type. Once you're there, look for the option to create a new API key. Go ahead and generate it and copy it down. Simple as that. If you're working with Grok, log into your Grok API Management Console. Navigate to the section called API Tokens or Keys, whatever they're calling it these days, and create a new token. Once you've got it, copy it and keep it handy. And for Perplexity, sign into their API portal. Head over to the API section and create your API key. Copy this key too, and you're all set. I've added links to each platform in the description so you can jump right in and spot without hunting around. All right, here's the deal. Once you're in Make.com and ready to roll, it's time to bring in some AI power to your scenario. Start by clicking the big plus button to add a new module. In the search bar, type in the name of the AI service you want to use, like OpenAI or Perplexity. When it pops up, select it. This is where the magic begins. Now, you'll see an option to connect your account. Don't worry, it's super easy. Click the Add button to start a new connection. A window will pop up asking you for your API key, and here's where you get to use that key you just carefully saved earlier. Just pasted it in, and that key becomes the bridge that lets Make.com talk directly with the AI service. After pasting in the API key, go ahead and click Save or Continue. Make.com will check to make sure everything's set, and if it all looks good, you're connected. Now you're ready to configure the model for exactly what you need it to do, whether that's generating some fresh text, analyzing data, or whatever fits your goal. Now for the fun part, telling the AI exactly what to do. Here's where you get to write out your instructions in the prompt field. Be specific, like summarize this review in 2 sentences, or write a friendly welcome email to a new user. There's also settings called max tokens, which controls how much the AI says. Think of it like a word count. More tokens if you want longer responses like summaries or a paragraph. Fewer for quick messages or short classifications. At this point, you've got the AI module all set up, but you can supercharge it by connecting other modules. Want to send emails? Add Gmail and use the AI-generated text as the email body. Need a record of these actions? Connect Google Sheets and log everything in a spreadsheet. Working with a CRM? Hook up HubSpot or Salesforce and let AI update contact profiles automatically based on the insight it generates. Finally, it's time to test. Hit run once and watch everything flow. The AI will generate its response and you'll see it go straight to your connected modules like Gmail or Google Sheets. If anything looks off, just go back, tweak the prompt, or adjust the max tokens until you've got it just right. And there you have it. a setup with AI that'll save you tons of time and make your workflows run like clockwork. Plus, if you've been hanging in here with me, remember there's a link below to download all the templates we covered in this video. So you can jump in and start building right away. Now that you've got some basics and some advanced understandings of Make.com modules, let's talk about a common module and structure that you'll find in many automations. And it's called JSON. JSON, or JavaScript Object Notation, is just a fancy way to organize information so it's easy to read and use. Think of it as a digital filing system. At its core, JSON works with key value pairs. Picture it like labeling items. You've got a label, or key, that tells you what the info is. And then you've got the actual info itself, or the value. So if we're talking about name as the key and Jake as the value, it's like saying, hey, this person's name is Jake. Why is it so useful? Well, JSON is easy for both humans and computers to read. So when you're ordering a pizza online, JSON might be hard at work behind the scenes, keeping track of what you ordered, your address, and any special requests like extra cheese. Now in Make.com, JSON comes in handy when you're moving around info that's all packaged up like this. When you connect certain apps, the data often arrives in JSON format. So if you're working with details like someone's name, age, or preferences, JSON lets you access each bit of data individually and use it however you need. Want to create your own JSON? Easy. In Make.com, bring in the Tools module and use the action Set Variable, then give it a name and type in your JSON structure. Make.com keeps it organized and ready for any step in your workflow. Next, let's add details for each piece of information you want to pull out from the JSON data. Think of it like creating labels for each bit of data so Make.com knows exactly what to find and where to put it. Under New Item, you'll start by entering the name field, which is basically a label or key for the specific piece of information you're looking to capture. So if you're pulling an email address, you'd enter email here. And if it's your favorite food, you type in favorite food. This label is like a quick identifier that tells Make.com exactly what to look for in the JSON data. Next, you'll choose the type for each item. The type tells Make.com what kind of information it should expect. For example, if it's a name, you'll pick text because it's made up of letters. If it's an age or a price, you'll select number, so Make.com knows it's dealing with digits. If it's a date, you might choose date or timestamp, so it's correctly handled in the workflow. By setting up these details, you're basically giving Make.com a set of instructions on what to look for and how to handle each piece of data. When sending data out to other apps, you can use the HTTP module in Make.com to format your info as JSON. Just type in your data structure, send it off, and the other app will read it perfectly. A few tips. Always keep your JSON neat and check for missing commas or brackets. It's like making sure all your ingredients are prepared before starting a recipe. And if you're ever dealing with a big pile of data, the JSON parser is your best friend for grabbing specific details quickly. So that's JSON in a nutshell. It keeps all your data organized so Make.com can work its magic without you having to sort through a pile of info by hand. Next up in our Make.com course are iterators, your best friend when dealing with lists of items. Imagine you're sitting on a pile of leads, maybe a dozen contacts from a recent sign-up form, and you want to reach out to each of them individually. An iterator is like a conveyor belt for this list. It takes each lead one by one, giving each its moment in the spotlight, so you can handle them separately rather than all at once. Perfect for personal touches or customized responses, right? So here's how you set it up. First, find where that list is coming from. Maybe you use Google Sheets to pull a bunch of new rows, or maybe in our case, we'll create a list using the JSON module we just learned about, with each object being one lead that has different types of data. Now let's add an iterator to the scenario. The iterator module will take that JSON and break it down into individual pieces, or bundles, as Make calls them. Then you set it to perform your chosen action one by one. Each item flows through getting individual treatment, whether it's an email, an update to a CRM, or an entry in a log. Picture it like this. One lead pops up, you send a personalized email. Next lead, same thing, and it goes on until each lead gets exactly what it needs. Test it out by running the scenario and watch as Make.com goes through the list item by item, giving each lead individual action that you've set up. So next time you're staring down at a list thinking, how can I handle each of these without doing it manually? Think Iterator. It's like having a digital helper that's all about focusing on one thing at a time, but in rapid succession. Now let's dive into Aggregators, the perfect partner to Iterators when it comes to handling data in bulk. Imagine you've got a list of uncontacted leads sitting in Google Sheets. Instead of pinging your team with a notification for each one of them, you'll just want to send out a single message, something like, hey team, here's today's list of folks we need to reach out to. This is where aggregators shine. An aggregator takes all those separate items and wraps them up into one nice package. So rather than having 10 notifications, you just get one message that lists all the leads. Clean, simple, and easy on the notifications. To set this up, start by pulling in your list, maybe our JSON that shows all of our leads. Then after the Iterator module, add an array aggregator module. This is where you decide how the message will look. Choose which fields to include, like each lead's name, email, or budget. So here you don't have to use all the data from our leads, just the relevant data for your task. So everything shows up in one line, making it nice and readable. Once the aggregator's ready, you can decide where the summary goes. Maybe it's a Slack channel, or a summary email, or even a project management tool. Run tests so you see all those individual items beautifully combined into one tidy message. Now picture combining iterators and aggregators. The iterator goes through each lead to see if they're high priority, while the aggregator compiles a daily summary of just those top leads. By using both, you can quickly identify the important contacts and share a clear, consolidated list. This combo keeps your workflow efficient, focused, and free from notification overload. In short, iterators make sure you don't miss a single item, while aggregators keeps things neat. And speaking of keeping things running smoothly, let's dive into error handling. The secret sauce in keeping your automations running like a well-oiled machine is definitely error handling, even when things don't go quite as planned. So, at some point, every automation hits a little bump in the road. But with error handling, you can make sure that those bumps don't derail everything. So what kind of errors are we talking about here? You might see a rate limit exceeded error if your automation tries to ping an app too many times in a short period. Or maybe you run into connectivity issues with external apps or missing fields. Knowing the type of errors you're dealing with helps you set up just the right response. Now let's get into the heart of it, the error handler. Think of this as your automation's built-in plan B that kicks in whenever things go sideways. There are a few options. Break. This is the let's take a pause option. It stops the whole scenario if something fails, but not before giving it 3 tries with a 15-minute break in between each attempt. If it still can't get past the issue after these 3 retries, it stops safely without causing chaos. Ignore. This one's for the keep calm and carry on moments. It lets your scenario just skip over the error and continue with the next item. No retries, no interruptions. Perfect for low-stake parts of your automation. Resume. It's like ignore, but with a slight twist. It skips the error, but still finishes any remaining steps. So if you don't want one hiccup to throw off the whole sequence, resume's your buddy there. Sleep. With sleep, you're telling Make.com to pause for a set time before retrying, which is super helpful if your error is something temporary, like a rate limit or server lag. To set this up, just right-click on the module where you think an error might happen, select Add Error Handler, and drop it below the module. For most scenarios, break is your best bet because it'll pause, retry, and only give up if absolutely necessary. Here's how it works. Imagine you have an automation that's set to send out a batch of emails, say a friendly reminder or a follow-up note to a long list of contacts. Now, here's the thing. Email providers often have limits on how many emails you can send in a short amount of time. And if you hit that limit, it could shut down your workflow, stop sending emails, or worse, flag your account for spamming. No one wants that, right? This is where the sleep module comes in. Before you get into the bulk email action, drop a sleep module in there to space things out, giving each email a moment before the next one goes out. Think of it like adding a breather between each send. So instead of firing off emails rapid fire, your automation sends one, pauses, and then moves on to the next. Let's break it down. You start with a list of contacts and you want each one to get an email. First, set up your iterator to handle each email individually. Then, right before the email module, add a sleep module with a delay of maybe 5 to 10 seconds. This pause gives each email its own dedicated time, reducing the risks of tripping over any send limits. Now, let's say an email still fails to send. Maybe the email address is invalid or there's a temporary issue with the server. That's where the error handler kicks in. If an email fails, the break error handler stops the action, waits, and retries up to 3 times before moving on to the next contact. And Make.com will send you an email notification if things still go sideways after all that, so you know exactly which email needs a little extra attention. In a nutshell, using a sleep module with error handling for bulk emails keeps everything running smoothly. You avoid server overloads, reduce the chances of hitting send limits, and let Make.com handle retries automatically if anything goes wrong. It's a simple addition that makes bulk email sending way more reliable. All right, next in Make.com, we dive into APIs and webhooks. These are the real heavy hitters in automation. So earlier in the video, I explained how APIs are like little messengers carrying requests from one app to another and bringing back answers without you having to lift a finger. Now, let's talk about how Make.com's HTTP module makes it easy to work with these APIs, even for apps that aren't directly supported by Make.com. So, here's the basic idea of an API request in Make.com. It's like saying, hey, can I get this data? And sending that request to another app. In Make.com, we use the HTTP module to send this kind of request. Here's how it works in a nutshell. First, you've got the request itself, which goes to a specific URL called an endpoint, where the app is listening and ready to respond. Each request type does something different. GET requests are for grabbing data, like pulling up contacts in a CRM, while POST requests are for sending new info to the app. So if you're trying to grab all your customers' contacts from your CRM, that's a GET request. Then we've got the response. The API hears your request, processes it, and sends it back for what you asked. Names, emails, you name it. Make.com pulls in that data and boom. Now you can use it in your scenario however you'd like. Let's say you want to grab some info from a CRM that doesn't have a Make.com integration. No problem. You just get the API endpoint from the CRM's API docs, set your request to GET if you're pulling in info, or POST if you want to do the opposite, which is to update info in your CRM. Pop in your API key and you're all set. In our case, Make.com pulls in the data and now you can use it for whatever you want to in your workflow. Now let's switch gears to webhooks. A webhook is basically an instant notification system. It's all about real-time updates. Unlike APIs, where Make.com has to go out and check for updates, a webhook just waits for the event like someone filling out a form and sends that info straight to Make.com in real time. Setting up a webhook is pretty straightforward. You add a webhook module and it gives you a unique URL. You take that URL and drop it into the settings of whatever app you're using, like a CRM or form tool, and choose what event you want to trigger the webhook. Let's run through an example. Imagine you have a lead form on your website. Every time someone fills it out, a webhook sends that info straight over to Make.com. And from there, Make.com can automatically handle the lead by adding them to your CRM, sending out a welcome email, and even notifying your team, all without any manual work. It's instant automation at its best. So, why are the APIs and webhooks such a big deal in Make.com? They make it possible to connect with just about any app out there, even if it isn't pre-built integration. APIs are perfect when you need to go and grab or send data, while webhooks let you kick off workflows right when something important happens. Together, they're like the ultimate automation dream team, giving you flexibility and speed to automate pretty much anything. To wrap it up, APIs help you fetch and send data when you need it, while webhooks act as real-time triggers that launch workflows as soon as something goes down. They're the secret ingredients that make Make.com automation super powerful, keeping everything in sync and freeing you up to focus on the good stuff. All right, let's wrap this up and take a moment to appreciate just how much Make.com can do. It's like having a supercharged assistant who doesn't just connect all your apps, but makes sure that they play together perfectly, automating your workflows, keeping things organized, and even handling hiccups along the way. And there you have it. If this video helped you out, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know whenever a new video drops. And hey, if you're sitting there like, this is gold, but I need more automation magic, you're in the right place. Down in the description, you'll find a link to our school community. It's a paradise for automation lovers. Think templates, resources, and a whole crew of guys and girls who geek out on making life smoother. We're talking everything from streamlining your emails to reminders that will tell you when it's time to grab a coffee or do a quick stretch. But here's the cherry on top. Just for hanging out with me all the way to the end, I've got a little gift waiting for you. I've bundled up all the templates we went over today, and they're yours to download for free. Just scroll down to the description, grab them, and get ready to take your automations to the next level. So remember, work smarter, not harder, and keep that automation game strong. Thanks for watching, and keep crushing it. I'll see you in the next video.